You know, every society faces this really fundamental choice. Do we churn out massive quantities of the exact same thing, or do we create a huge variety of different things? It's this constant battle between the efficiency of quantity and our deep love for variety. So today, we're diving into the groundbreaking paper that completely changed how economists think about it. I mean, just imagine two completely different worlds. On one hand, you have a world of pure quantity. Everyone wears the same gray jumpsuit, everyone eats the same nutrient paste. Sure, massive factories could make all that stuff for incredibly cheap. But then you have the world we actually live in. A world of variety, with countless styles, endless flavors, and all the choice you could want. The catch? All that choice costs more. So how do we find the right balance? And that really is the central question, isn't it? Is there some kind of Goldilocks amount of variety? Not too little, not too much, but just right. For years, economists really struggled with this. But then, in 1977, Avinash, Dixit, and Stiglitz published a paper that tried to answer that exact question with a proper mathematical model. So the paper zeroes in on this specific market structure called monopolistic competition. Just think about coffee shops or all the different brands of toothpaste. You've got tons of options, and each one is just a little bit different, which gives them a tiny bit of monopoly power. But new brands can pop up pretty easily, which competes away any huge profits. It's this messy, real-world market that their model decided to tackle. Now, you have to understand, before this paper came along, the consensus among economists was pretty clear. They looked at monopolistic competition and basically saw a broken, inefficient system. The common thinking was that it just led to a wasteful excess of choices that, in the long run, actually hurt consumers. And this is what that old verdict looked like. Economists called it excess capacity. The whole argument was that you had way too many firms, and each one was producing too little to be truly efficient. And that meant average costs were too high for everybody. The final conclusion? We were basically drowning in a wasteful number of choices. But then Dixit and Stiglitz came in with this incredibly simple, almost obvious, but totally profound insight that had been missing from all the old models. And it's just this. We humans actually like choice. We have a taste for variety. The very act of choosing between different options gives us real value, or what economists call utility. And they didn't just say this, they actually modeled it using math, with a concept called convex indifferent surfaces. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but the idea is actually pretty intuitive. You'd probably rather have a mix of apples and oranges than a basket that's just full of apples or just full of oranges, right? Well, that simple preference for a mix proves that variety, all by itself, has real value to us. And when they plugged that simple, powerful insight into their model, boom, they came to a stunning conclusion that completely flipped decades of economic thinking on its head. The verdict was reversed. So here is their crucial finding. The market equilibrium is what they called a constrained optimum. Now, that is a really powerful idea. What it means is that in the real world, where companies have to actually cover their own costs and can't just get a government handout, the market it finds the best possible outcome. It strikes the perfect balance all by itself. This just completely reframes that old criticism. Remember that excess capacity that everyone thought was just pure waste? Turns out it's not. It is simply the necessary price we have to pay to have a vibrant, diverse marketplace full of choices that we actually value. It's a feature, not a bug. But, okay, they didn't stop there. They pushed it a step further. They asked, what if we could get rid of that constraint? What if some all-powerful planner could just give companies money to cover their startup costs, creating a truly perfect, unconstrained world? What would that ideal world even look like? And this is where the second shocking result comes in. In this perfect, unconstrained world, the absolute best outcome for society would actually have even more firms and even more variety than the free market gives us. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That common complaint you always hear that capitalism gives us too many brands of toothpaste, this paper mathematically showed that was wrong. A perfect world, one that really maximized our well-being, would actually want even more brands of toothpaste, not fewer. Okay, so this all sounds pretty great for the free market, but the paper isn't saying it's flawless. Far from it. It also uncovered a really subtle but important bias in the kinds of variety the market decides to give us. It turns out the market is biased towards things where companies can easily turn value into revenue. So think of things that are cheap to make and have what's called elastic demand, like football matches.
but it's biased against goods that are expensive to set up and have inelastic demand. Things where the social value is really high, but the potential to make money is lower. The classic example they use in the paper is opera.
And this provides a powerful economic reason for something we see all the time in the real world. It helps explain why mass entertainment can do just fine on its own, while high culture, things like opera or museums, might really struggle to survive without some kind of public subsidy. The market just isn't built to reward the specific kind of value they create. But the ultimate legacy of this paper goes way beyond its specific conclusions about toothpaste and opera. As so many economists have pointed out, this paper didn't just solve one little puzzle. It built a whole new toolbox for the entire profession. The Dixit-Stiglitz model was just so elegant and so powerful that it became a standard building block across huge fields of economics. It totally revolutionized theories of international trade, economic growth, and even macroeconomics, because it finally gave economists a way to plug our love of variety right into their equations.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that the market, for all its imperfections, finds this surprisingly good, if not perfect balance between the cold efficiency of mass production and our very human, very real love of variety.
And that leaves us with one last kind of provocative question to think about. If this landmark paper proved that the market is giving us the best amount of variety it can, or maybe even a little less than what's truly ideal, then why do so many of us still walk down the cereal aisle and just feel completely overwhelmed, thinking, wow, there are just way, way too many choices?